What are we talking about today? I love lessons learned between people, between relationships, right? So every now and then, just sit and reflect on lessons learned. And I've been lately just reflecting on lessons learned or lessons I have learned from my husband, and how we find ourselves where we are today. So first, foundation. Very important. Foundation is extremely important. Very, very important. Because that's where that's where you build everything else on, right? So if your foundation is cracky, then by the time you add on things as you are building, I can imagine, you building a house, and if the foundation of the house is unstable and it's cracky, by the time you're adding on a second story to this building, it will eventually fall through, right? It will just fall because the foundation was not strong to begin with. So foundation is very important. And I love it how my king and I built our foundation. And this, I believe, is actually like a beautiful secret. It's not a secret per se, but it's also a secret. It's kind of like one of those secret ingredients that are like just like they're out there, right? When we went out on our first date, we had our notebooks. I don't remember if the conversation prepared us to say when we're going on our first date, we must actually go with our notebooks. I think I do remember him saying, please come with your notebook. I don't really remember, but I do remember that we both had our notebooks. And I remember when we sat and, we started the conversation. Eventually the conversation, went to our goals and our desires and where we're seeing ourselves. And the beauty of that is when this is the person I want to spend my life with, you do what it takes to be kept, right? You do what it takes to be kept. But also as well, more than you doing what it takes to be kept, I'd like to believe that when that person has been given to you by God, they're already your pieces as two different people. They actually complement each other. So by the time you are meeting, you actually become one piece, right? So why am I saying this? As I was growing up as an individual, I had my own goals, right? I built my character around certain goals and around a certain individual that I want to be, that I want to become. So with him or without him, there are certain goals that I had set out for myself. There's a certain image I had set out for myself as me. And when he came now, and we had our first date, that is where now it was like, oh, God, oh my goodness, I love you so much because, wow, you're just putting things together. Yeah, I mean, we opened our notebooks and we started talking about what I have always wanted. We spoke about what he has always wanted, what his desires, his visions, what he sees, where he sees himself, from here moving forward, where he has always seen himself, and there was, as a matter of fact, let me not even say there was so much, but everything that we have worked on, everything that we have worked for, everything that we have hoped for in our individual stands turns out to be the very same thing. It just happened that, I was in my own space of life and he was in his own space of life, we hadn't met, right? And this is why I always say that marriage is not the final destination. Marriage is just the beginning. Because when now you have found your person, or when you have been found by your person and you're putting your goals together and everything aligns, now the real work begins. Because now the vision is complete. The real work begins. And now that's when now as a lady, as a woman, as a wife, as a mother, as yourself, as a person, and as a helper, you now trust that vision to the man, to run with that vision. And you are there standing beside him, supporting that vision, right? And it is important to have that session of notebook, because then it helps you understand your role when it now comes to supporting your man, as a lady, of course, supporting your man, supporting your king with the vision, because it's not just his vision. You all came together and you placed your visions together, and your visions now, they are aligning. So now it's one full, complete, whole vision. So now he's carrying it in the sense of he's leading with that vision. And because now also as well, a part of you is in that vision, you are standing there, you are supporting. So it's not just him, it's both of you. He's just leading it, right? So I found that to be quite amazing. I think that was a very big step for us, in that assisted, or that helped us in our foundation, because from the get-go we knew where we were heading to. From the get-go we knew what we are working towards, right? And it wasn't a thing of you have to do this because now you're in the relationship. We both came with the visions, right? That over time, as we have grown up and as we have experienced life to however extent we have, these are the visions that we see for ourselves. And when we came together, it all aligned beautifully well. And we ran with it, right? After it has aligned, we run with it. Hence, once again, marriage is not the final destination. Marriage is just the beginning, right? Because now when you have laid out that foundation, now we really start building. We really start building. So that's that. And also I think, what I mentioned earlier, that in a relationship, you do what it takes to be kept. And I remember he told me this very early on as well, in our dating stage, because by then, when he came, I was in my own drama of life. And I was very uncertain. I was very, very uncertain. And so he came and he told me that, listen, I know that you've just, come out of this situation and all of that, but I also like to believe that when a person has had that moment of reflection and that moment of thought, and you are well aware where you want to go, despite the circumstances, right? You do what it takes to get to that other goal, right? And so it just came to be that in that conversation, as we were talking, and he said, despite what you are coming from, despite where you are coming from, if a person wants to be in a relationship, they will do what it takes to be in a relationship. Not to say that one cannot have certain feelings, right? Especially when you are having a certain background. but also as well in respect to all of that. When you need to be kept as a person, you will do what it takes to be kept. It's simple as that. It's simple and as direct as that. Let me not try to complicate it. It's simple and direct as that. And that goes to, it's on both sides. As a man, as a woman, when you want to be kept in a relationship, you will do what it takes to be kept. Simple. So yeah, what else? Quite interestingly enough, so my king is he's somebody who's just, he's got this persona, right? I call it like serious face. Like sometimes we'll just sit there and I look at him and I'm like, so serious. He's got this thing where he's just like, when he's concentrating, he's serious. And a lot of people think, that perhaps maybe he's a kind of a person who is harsh towards me, or he shouts at me, or, like very strict. Looks can be deceiving at times, hey? But I will say that actually one of the things that drew me to him as well was that seriousness, because it speaks boundaries. Before you even start, like immediately you look at him, it speaks boundaries. And for me, I loved that. I really loved that, especially in a world where people want, women want to throw themselves a kokai, and there's no order and whatnot and all of that. Anybody can just come into your personal space and stuff and everything. And to find a young man who actually stands his ground and he cultivates his surroundings so carefully, and just doesn't allow anybody in, for me that is important. That is very important. I remember when we started dating, and I think one time we had our first disagreement, and my voice started rising, and he sat back and he looked at me and he said, it's actually possible to have a conversation without raising your voice. You know how dramatic we can be, right? And I promise you, from that moment on, I learned that, listen, there is no the women dramatic and total of like, oh my gosh, I'm so angry and my voice is gonna go all the way up and stuff and everything. Listen, if you feel that you're not gonna be able to control your words, your emotions, the tone of your voice, keep quiet. When you are calm, you will come back, we will sit down, and we will talk. And so I have never experienced in my relationship, in my marriage with my king, you will never hear the raising of voice, and that is foreign to us. And so, contrary to what might be common belief, it is possible to have a relationship where you're not raising voices, where there may be disagreements, not necessarily arguments. There may be disagreements, and you settle them nicely, amicably, maturely, and you move forward, and your marriage is beautiful. And I think because there is so much negativity around marriage, we always think, when there's an argument, it has to end up in some hoo-ha, big thing and all of those things. And then after that, there's a whole healing and stuff and everything. And actually, it doesn't have to be that big. It does not have to be that big. You just, okay, I'm going through this situation. I'm going through this emotion. I'm going to sit it out. I'm going to wait. When I'm calm, I'm going to come back. We're going to work through it and we move forward. It's simple. It's simple. And like I said, we spoke through it, right? It's not something that how do I put it? It's not something that was just dropped in the air or dropped out of the air. We had to address it. So it's important to address your issues. That's another thing. It's important to address issues well at the beginning, so that you build your culture, right? You build your own kind of atmosphere. You build your own type of marriage that you would like, or that you would want. It is very much possible, guys, to have the type of marriage that you dream of. It may not be 99, it may not be 100%, but definitely I will vouch for 99%. Beautiful, lovely. Yeah, and what else? And I think also, as well, as you grow, as you grow with each other, when I was growing up and witnessing the type of marriages around, I always thought that, in every marriage, you have to go through the first few years of hard times, of hard marriage, because you don't know each other and you're coming from different backgrounds, and so when I got married, I had that expectation at the back of my head, thinking at some point probably me and my king are going to go through that patch where I'm just like, I don't want to be here anymore. And then families are involved and stuff and everything, because it always happens. Once again, depending on the type of society you've grown up in and what you have witnessed, right, around you. And funny enough, by God, and I pray this never happens, but I have not gone through that process with my king. And I think still, and this is where I am very grateful for the type of foundation that we built, because from the get-go, back again, the notebook, it works. I think because in our dating era, we spoke a lot about what we want, how we want, what we don't want, what we're not going to allow. And so that in itself has helped us build the type of culture and the type of surrounding that we are happy with, that we are comfortable with. And it's working for us, it's working for us. Now we are in our, I'm not going to mention, Now, looking back at where we are coming from, or how far we've come to where we are at now, for me, it still feels like we are still dating more than, the feel of traditional feelings of marriage. Me and my king will still play around. But I think more than anything, it's how we treat each other, it's how we see each other, and it's how we respond to each other. It really still feels like we are in the dating stage, which is beautiful. I love it. It's what I've always wanted, So, yeah. That's that.